Nerks of the Hub, your fan cast brought to you by TV Series Hub.
Hello and welcome to the new TV Series Hub feature, the podcast Nerks of the Hub. I'm Lucas, and here with me from the Hub are Kelsey.
Hey.
And Yuba.
Hello.
And our very first guest, Joe Mallozzi.
Hello.
You might know Joe from the episode Chain Letter from Lassie. Or maybe some smaller productions like the Stargate Series, S01, Atlantis and Universe, and Dark Matter. But it's okay if you haven't heard of them yet.
Oh, I'm sure people can find something about them on Google if they look it up. So, no worries.
And today we're going to be talking mainly about fandoms. Welcome to our podcast, Joe. It's really a pleasure to have you as our first guest.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Then, Kelsey, you go from there.
Yeah, I will kick us off. All right, thank you so much for coming to our Hub podcast. Doing a podcast has been an idea we've sort of been kicking around at the Hub for a bit, but then after Fox's recent red wedding of cancellations and sci-fi essentially canceling the rest of the world, fandom went a bit crazy, and we knew that was our first topic. So as fans, we like to think we play a role beyond Nielsen numbers, whether that's saving shows we love or even influencing storylines, but we really have no idea what power fandoms actually have or don't, frankly. So we wanted to bring you in as our master of fandoms to please give us a behind-the-scenes look at what role you see fandom actually playing in these precarious show situations.
Wow. Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a mouthful. How can fandoms actually help?
It's a pretty general question. I mean, it depends. Help do what? I mean, basically, a show's success, in the old model was really dependent on eyeballs. The traditional model was fans tuned in, and if the ratings were there, the show was picked up for another season. But now, sort of with the progress in technology, it's become a little more complicated because now it's not just the overnight numbers, but there are, because of DVR, there's delayed viewing that has to be taken into account, and sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. A show may have a first window on a broadcast network and then basically end up somewhere else, like a streamer, like on Netflix. And some people wait to binge on a Netflix once they have all the episodes. So that eats into the ratings as well. And also, people tend to pirate episodes online, so that eats into the ratings as well. And then, there are different ways that the broadcasters can monetize or the a show. It used to be that they would make their money off advertisers, but as I pointed out, because the numbers are dropping, it becomes hard to do that. Sometimes I like to take a part of streaming rights or some other piece of the financial puzzle, if you will. So it's very complicated. And what makes it even more complicated is that, especially for genre fans, it's kind of infuriating because genre fans tend to be more tech savvy, so they're the ones who will more likely stream and less likely to watch live. So it's a challenge, and it feels at times like the broadcasters are basically 3 steps behind the times and sort of trying to catch up, but they don't seem to be in that much of a hurry. So you get shows like Dark Matter, which was the number 3 show on third most watched show on Sci-Fi, getting canned, and now there's The Expanse, which is another show that has a great fandom getting dropped by Sci-Fi. So it's frustrating. It's easy to ask fans to tune in, but as sort of time progresses and technology progresses, it actually becomes a lot harder to do.
Great answer.
Along those lines, I think about Stargate SG-1 had 10 years, and I don't even know, is that even possible anymore with the way very few shows in the sci-fi genre seem to get that kind of, you mentioned Dark Matter, which I was a obsessive fan of, and of Stargates. big time fans of Stargates, and it broke my heart, when Dark Matter was cut off, especially where it was cut off. So thank you very much for the updates on what would have happened in season 4, because the fans are very appreciative of that. Very appreciative.
Yeah. I'm very appreciative of the fandom. I mean, in the case of Dark Matter, it was like a show that I was working on for developing for years while I was on Stargate, and every year I thought we would go out with it. We kept on getting picked up. Atlantis got picked up for another year, and then another year after that. And then we got the Stargate universe going. So I had a lot of time to sit with the characters and the storyline. So I really did have a 5-year plan, and I knew where I wanted all the stories to end. And so it was particularly frustrating after the show's 3rd season. I thought, like I said, I mean, the ratings were strong, and fandom was passionate, and I figured we would, finish up those last 2 seasons, and I moved to Toronto to finish them up. And then the day I arrived was the day we found out we'd been canceled. So it was very frustrating, and in many ways, for those who don't know what I did over the last couple of days, I actually offered up an outline, beat by beat outline of what the season 4 premiere would have been. So I was calling it a virtual season 4 premiere, and broke it down into acts with the commercial breaks. Just to sort of get it off my chest, but also, thank the fans for following the show, because I know there's nothing worse than ending on a cliffhanger. And, go back to the fact that, sci-fi, their motto, or their recent sort of tag is, it's a fan thing, which is altogether bizarre, because I would think that if it was a fan thing, you would reward fans. And I'm not saying basically make a decision, an unwise financial decision, but basically if your fans have supported your show for 3 seasons, at least give them the respect of some sort of a conclusion, be it a miniseries or maybe a movie, something to cap things off, so that you don't create sort of this bad blood, or you don't sort of dismiss them, which is essentially what they did when they canceled the show. And I'm not following the expanded situation that closely, but I imagine it's kind of the same thing where the fans may not be offered closure unless Amazon comes through.
Yeah, and I think sorry, go ahead, Uber.
Well, I was just going to say, with regard to Dark Matter, I was a tertiary, distant part of helping to get Dark Matter renewed, restored, whatever, or moved to a different platform. And you saw the fan response. I did the Team Raza TV website, and we worked on the different, trying to get the trending and things, and it was just so disheartening, because we would like with Sense8 had a massive outpouring, and Netflix was like, okay, we'll give you a closeout movie so you can see what happened to your people. And we were like, yeah, that's great. We would love that for Dark Matter. Can you give us something? Can you give us anything? And it's like, no. And it's very disheartening. But I actually wanted to tie that into the follow-up question, sort of what Kelsey was touching on, was with these responses from fans, like we did trending nights, and we work on trying to get the various keywords to trend on Twitter. How effective is that? What does it actually do? I've always wanted to know that. I mean, it's cool when we can go, hey, we got our funny, hashtag about Android or 3 or whatever. We got them all in there, and yay. But what does it actually do from a practical standpoint on your end?
Well, I mean, it really gets word out about the show, and it gets people to notice it. I mean, I heard about executives from other productions who were amazed by the fan outpouring. We took our page out of the originally it was actually, I think, Fringe that actually started this as a means to sort of get another season. And there's sort of a whole formula to sort of get trending. The fact that you had to use a unique hashtag for every event, the fact that you couldn't start before a certain time, the fact that you couldn't use two hashtags in a tweet. So this is all kind of a territory that was blazed by Fringe fans. So thank you very much. So essentially, when we were looking to sort of follow in their footsteps, we very much, just basically followed their lead. And it was very effective. I mean, another show that actually did, follow kind of the same course was Longmire.
Yeah.
And they were successful. Fringe was successful, got another season. Longmire was successful. That they were on History Channel, and Netflix ended up picking them up for a couple of seasons. So we really wanted to get the word out, and ultimately, it was actually two things. And Timeless is another great example of a fandom that just made a lot of noise. Yeah. I mean, but each situation is different. In the case of Longmire, I think it's Longmire. They ended up on Netflix. For Netflix, at the end of the day, it's about subscribers. For them, ratings are not as, I guess, crucial. And I imagine that in their mind, they already had Dark Matter. So they already had kind of the Dark Matter fans, and maybe they felt the extra expense would not be worth it because they would not get as many new subscribers. I would have argued that they would have probably gotten the subscribers who were watching it on Sci-Fi, who may not have been Netflix fans, but I mean, that at the end of the day, that was that. In the case of Longmire, they were a new show for Netflix, so basically they ended up getting their fans as subscribers. So I mean, and then in the case of Sci-Fi, ultimately, I think, to be honest with you, Sci-Fi is divided into Sci-Fi originals and Sci-Fi acquisitions, and Sci-Fi acquisitions were the ones who picked up the show, and it's ultimately when our champion Chris Regina left Sci-Fi to go to Netflix. The originals department just came in and canceled us. And honestly, I don't think they were ever fans. I think maybe there was one executive who watched the show on the original side. Just in retrospect, I think, they didn't really care. Like I said, they didn't care about the show. They didn't care about the fandom. We could have made all the noise we wanted. I thought, at the very least, they could have seen how passionate fandom was and rewarded fandom with some sort of closure. But even that, we never got a response. So that was disappointing. But that's Sci-Fi, I guess.
I would never have thought about that with Netflix and already having the fans and it being about the subscriptions and stuff. So that insight, that's exactly, what we're looking for. And I know right now, a big one that's being pushed, and Lucas is a big part of, is the Lucifer, save Lucifer. And I think maybe it's a similar situation because the reruns are already on Netflix. And so maybe it's a similar,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the situation is. I mean, obviously a Fox show. I mean, when we were looking to save Dark Matter, rather than really go into a streamer, we needed a what we call like a first tier broadcaster, like I guess Sci-Fi, but someone like like a Sci-Fi to step up and take over that first window, and we were able to find them. In the case of Lucifer, I think it's probably similar. I mean, Fox is obviously first window, and I guess Netflix has the streaming rights. I mean, one of the things that's kind of a challenge is, a lot of the fans who don't understand say, well, why don't you go, and the expense is going to Amazon, and I don't really know what their situation is, but why can't Amazon save Dark Matter? And the challenge is the fact that Netflix owns the streaming rights for the first 3 seasons of Dark Matter for I don't know how many years. Mm-hmm. And it just becomes less attractive for another streamer to pick up a show where they can't stream the entire series in its entirety.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I have a question from her Twitter handle is @BRCHeaven. She's asking you if you follow any of the newly cancelled shows, and as Yuba watched Dark Matter, she's a big fan. And what do you think that they could do to land, in another streaming service or something? And follow up when you said about Lucifer, the thing is that it is produced by Warner Brothers. Then it's a bit easier having a different studio producing the show, I think. And I don't know if you can say anything about that. Producing the show and then Fox just broadcasting it, and then Hulu having the rights to stream in the US and Netflix and the rest of the world.
Sorry, I don't follow. The situation is basically produced by Warner Brothers, First Window, First Window Fox, Second Window Hulu, Netflix International. And so what was the question? Whether I watched the shows or...
Yeah, her question was that if you watch any of the cancelled shows, and let me see, she has a follow-up. And then if you are like a fanboy of any of them or any of the shows that are currently on TV, that you would be part of those campaigns or something.
Yeah, you know what? I will always support a fan campaign, especially for genre television. So, I mean... an old high school buddy of mine, Kaz Anbar, is actually one of the actors on The Expanse, and I have kind of indirectly supported their campaign, or behind the scenes, I should say, supported their campaign, and urge Dark Matter fans to support them as a sort of kind of a fellow sci-fi show. I mean, to be honest with you, when you make TV, it's really hard to find the time to watch TV, and I'm a very I would say voracious reader. So a lot of my free time is spent reading. As a result, I don't watch as much TV as I would like or maybe should. I have heard great things about Lucifer, again, as a genre show. And I certainly sympathize with the fans and do hope that, if they can't land a new season, at least get some kind of closure. I think really the best bet, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't really know all the ins and outs of the deals that are struck and what is in place, but their best bet would be to land at another, first tier broadcaster, someone to, a broadcaster to replace Fox, essentially. Mm-hmm. That and maybe it's a matter of targeting them specifically, maybe targeting some executives online, with the tweet storm, but really just getting the word out there and sort of making noise on social media platforms, but also if you can get some heavy hitters on board, like celebrities who will tweet their support. I know William Shatner is very active on Twitter, and he's a genre guy, and he supports various genre shows. So if you go for, reach out to people like that, they can make a difference. And then maybe some people who are perhaps not genre fans that could make a bit of a splash.
Yeah, and I think William Shatner, he tweeted a lot about the Save Lucifer campaign, actually. And so, yeah. But the thing is that when it comes, as you said, it's not something like laid out, the steps to get picked up or anything like that. Because Brooklyn Nine-Nine, people were saying that it got picked up really quickly. But the thing is that NBC used to have the rights for Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And then they just, exercise their rights to have it back. But that doesn't happen with a lot of the other cancelled shows like Lucifer, The Expanse, and all of that. So I think I think the main thing when it comes to fans, kind of, I don't like to use this word, but I mean, rioting, why not, like fans campaigning to save a show, is that you need to keep on going no matter like how long does it take, to actually get picked up. Because I've seen Lucifer and the Expanse XX saying that it should, they should keep tweeting because it's making a difference when it comes to their trying to shop the show, for other networks. So I think it works a bit like that.
So can I ask specifically when we talk about shows coming back, I mean, you recently sort of spearheaded a Stargate Now Twitter storm. Is that, can you give us any, how did that go? How do you feel? What's the next step, sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, that really came about on the heels of Stargate Origins, where basically MGM released this web series, and there was talk of it being used as a litmus test to gauge fan support or enthusiasm for a new Stargate series. And I kind of thought it was unfair or not a great gauge, just because you're kind of comparing apples and oranges. You're asking fans to support a web series, which is really, it's going to be challenged, in terms of sort of what they can do, especially financially. And not surprisingly, there was a lot of negative response to the web series. I thought they did a good job with what they had, the resources they had, but fans are used to the Stargate series, and so the web series, I just thought, well, it's not really a fair gauge. So I decided to rally the fans and just let MGM know that Fandom was out there. Not only Fandom was out there, but they're interested in a fourth season. But there were a couple of ways that this new series could go, and I'd heard word that they were that there was a fourth series either in the works, or they were talking about launching a fourth series, but they didn't know how to proceed. And ultimately, there were two ways to do it. One is a complete reboot, and I can see why the studio would find that attractive. They would see it as offering a great jumping on point for new viewers. You wipe the slate clean, no baggage from previous incarnations. And while that may be true, you risk pissing off the existing Stargate fans. So I mean, the alternate is to create a show that offers a great jumping off point for new viewers, while still using the established world, the world's established, in the movie, but particularly in the three series, SG-1, Atlantis, and Stargate Universe, and reward longtime fans, because they are going to be such an immense resource when you're looking to launch a new any show. If you already have a pre-existing fan base that is willing to get online and push and make noise for you, you couldn't ask for anything more. And so really, at the end of the day, all the Stargate Rising campaign sought to do was to let MGM know that the existing fandom is out there and capable of making a lot of noise if they're treated with respect. And I've always said fandom is a two-edged sword. They can be very supportive and great, and on the other side, and you piss them off at your own risk.
That's true. It can be toxic at times, I think, as well.
Well, along those lines, with regard to fans and how they interact with existing shows, and by the way, I really love that you had several Goa'uld come on board to show support for the Stargate project. So that was pretty cool. I wanted to ask you about existing shows and how fans influence decisions for stories and for characters and for arcs in existing shows. For instance, I'll use as an example on Arrow. We had a character, Felicity and Oliver Queen, and originally they were not planned to make them into a romantic pairing, and now they're married. And that was because apparently the fans had a very strong reaction and were excited about them as a couple. So whatever plans they had for Oliver and Laurel were sort of set by the wayside, and they moved in this new direction that they weren't originally intending. And so I was wondering, I guess from your perspective, when fandom reacts, I mean, there's always going to be pros and cons. There's always going to be fans who are really excited about something and other fans who really, really hate the same thing. What influences your decision to move forward on something like that? And sort of as a follow-up, when something happens, negative or positive, what is a healthy way, because we were just talking about the toxic elements of fandom, what is a healthy way for fans to contact and communicate their feelings, pro or con?
Okay, I to be honest, I don't know what the Elicity is it Elicity?
Yeah.
Other than what?
I'm not familiar with it outside of like Gail Simone's Twitter feed. So I don't even know what the game was. I guess maybe they weren't planning. But I mean, sometimes, I mean, it's twofold. One is the on-screen chemistry. You know, in the case of Dark Matter, the android was supposed to be really a peripheral supporting character, but Zoe just popped on screen, and she was so much fun to write for, and fandom loved her. I mean, you know, whenever we would do, the network would do those, what do you call them? You know, those ridiculous, you know, sort of fan tests or whatever, testings. She was always top of the list. Everyone loved the android. So as a result, you know, we explored the android more, and she was a lot of fun to explore. I mean, it really, really depends. In the case of Dark Matter, like I said, I mean, I had all the storylines planned, so, you know, it was unlikely that the fans could have effected a major change. But things like the android, for instance, is a great example of, you know, a fan response really driving creative. And, you know, again, with the advent of social, you know, the growth of social media, people are always paying attention, whether it be network executives, production executives, or creatives. And I think if there's a possibility to affect creative change, certainly you can do it by, you know, making your voice heard. And the easiest way of doing that is by getting online. And actually, Twitter is a great tool. As much as Twitter drives me nuts most of the time, it's a great way of reaching out and connecting with the people that make your favorite shows. You know, there's also Facebook as well. I have a blog. I mean, you know, many creators don't, but a few of them do. They have dedicated blogs where you can actually go and leave comments in the comments section. And, you know, I approve all the comments, so I read all the comments, and occasionally I'll do the mailbags. And, you know, I'm aware of what the fans like, what they, you know, and what they don't like. And, you know, obviously you want to keep them happy, but, you know, on the other hand, you don't want to, at the end of the day, end up, you know, creating sort of a kind of a show that you know, all of their desires are answered, at which point basically, you know, they're not going to be hungry for more. Right. So I mean, I think, you know, definitely following creators on Twitter, interacting with them, and just letting them know how you feel about, certain things. And then, occasionally if there's something you feel passionate about, maybe creating some sort of an event like we did for Stargate Rising or the Dark Matter events, make some noise and catch the attention of executives. And, if you can spread kind of a wide net, there may be someone who may be somewhat immovable and not willing to consider the changes, but if you reach out to enough people, maybe there'll be an executive who will reach out and say, hey, maybe they have a point, or why don't we try this? And at the end of the day, creators love the fans and the fact that fans are happy and they react positively. So certainly today in today's world, fans are more likely now than ever to be able to affect change or some sort of change.
So can I ask, is there anything when you were doing the Stargate series that sort of surprised you of fan reaction? I mean, you do like testing and chemistry tests and all these things, but is there one where fans, you were just like, I can't even believe they love this person, or I can't believe they hate this person, or that one that just really took you by surprise?
Very early on, one of the things that took me by surprise were the shippers and anti-shippers. The whole Jack and Sam. And it was just kind of I guess odd how passionate. Basically, not so much basically how passionate they were about their pairing, about how passionate they were about not wanting to see a pair. So that one kind of surprised.
Yeah, I could see that. I know Once Upon a Time had some serious issues with that.
Yeah.
Shippers.
Yeah. But basically, what I think is very odd is the same thing you said. Like, people seem to be more worried about a certain pairing not happening and what they think should happen. Being on screen. They kind of start wars on Facebook and Twitter and all of that, just not to see a certain thing happening. And I mean, it's too weird, but I mean, it still happens.
Well, they don't want it to happen because as long as it doesn't happen, it leaves the door open to a potentially canon resolution to their whatever fantasy pairing. So I mean, I get it. I get it. They prefer to maintain a status quo than take that step that essentially would negate their pairing.
Yeah, I generally don't have a personal opinion about pairings. I just want to, usually when I watch a show, I just want a good story with and depending on the genre and all that. And of course I kind of like some people together or some arc better than others and stuff like that. But the main thing for me is that as long as the story is good and the creators are happy creating the story and doing what they're doing, and the fans like what's happening, like I mean in general line, not like strictly when it comes to arcs or pairings or anything like that. I mean, that's the most important thing for me. And I wouldn't mind, having another pairing or like a change in some, character's arc if the story, was to become, even better, even more compelling, to what's happening.
Well,
and then,
do you have any, so I guess I'm thinking about the supernatural fandom, right? And to me, one of the weirdest shipper groups out there is the ones with that want the brothers to get together. because they're two handsome guys, and I'm like, they're brothers. So weird. And is there anything like that you had sort of these passionate shippers contacting you, either for Stargate or for Dark Matter, that you were like, people, like, what are you thinking?
There was. I don't know if there was any like shit. I mean, there was a slash fiction, but I mean that's that kind of pairing has been in sci-fi fandom for ages. I don't. I mean, in this day and age, I don't find it particularly weird or anything. It's it's just again like another pairing. In terms of any like really weird pairing in Stargate, no, I can't really think of one. I'm wondering if anybody shipped Walter. I don't remember Walter being shipped with anyone. They are, they are doing great. Lonely Walter. But no, nothing weird. Nothing weird.
Okay.
Carter and McKay. Like, really, Stargate fans, Carter and McKay, Rodney McKay, really. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
Maybe that would be strange, yeah.
I'm teasing.
So, again, do you want to say anything about your current project, what you're working on? Can you say something? I'll tell people about it.
Yeah, I'm just really riding the development merry-go-round now. I've been very fortunate in my career that I've been in production through most of it. I mean, I went from animation to live-action teen sitcoms to 1 hour action adventure to Stargate to a show that I don't even mention, which was like a disaster, to basically working on this mini series to ultimately ending up on Dark Matter. And this is the first time in I feel like almost 20 years that I've been free. And on the one hand, it's kind of nice because I have that freedom to go check out matinees, for instance, which is something I love to do, read books, and also it's giving me an opportunity to sort of meet people, because when you're in production, you just meet, you just know the people, the executives that you work for or you work with. So, I'm in development on something for Space Channel here. I was in discussions with something with with Paramount. I'm pitched a couple of projects yesterday, and I think I'll probably be doing writing a script. It's another sci-fi series. But to be honest with you, as much as I've enjoyed meeting the people I've worked with, I find development a bit of a slog, and more than anything, I just want to sort of tell a story or finish a story. So, for instance, in the case of Dark Matter, I did the virtual episode 401, our premiere, and I have 402 in my head, and maybe they'll reach a point where I'm going to put that up online. But I've got these like 5 stories that I want to tell, and I could wait and pitch them and hope that I get to write the script and we sell the show, and I get to write the show and I get to ultimately produce and tell the story I want to tell. Or I'm seriously considering of actually going the comic book route, which is, I've read comic books all my life. I'm a huge comic book fan. And I just find comics give you a leeway and a certain, a certain license to be able to tell the story you want to tell over how many issues you want to tell them. And really, it's something that I'm seriously thinking of pursuing. And really, it's not with an end to like have it end up on television. I want basically this comic book series to be, to really just live as a comic series, to just be able to sort of express myself, and tell the story in the comic book venue. And if someone wants to auction the rights down the line, maybe I'll be interested, maybe I won't. But I'll just have the satisfaction of being able, having produced a great comic book series. So really, that is what is foremost in my mind right now. But of course, to find out what is foremost on my mind, you can just drop on my blog, just do a Google search for my name, Joseph Mallozzi, and you'll land on the blog. I've been blogging now for a little over 11 years, and I cover everything from the industry to what I'm working on. There were behind the scenes on Stargate, on Dark Matter, just everything. And I haven't missed a day in those 11 plus years, so there's a lot of catching up to do. So check it out. And aside from that, as I said, development and doing a lot of reading.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. And I think the main thing to me, when it comes to creating something, and you can say if that's like this or not, is that, I mean, when you want something out, you want to tell a story or you want to do something, I mean, the best way to cope with that is just do, right? Yeah. I mean, because you're like with 1,000 different projects, as you said, but you want to tell the stories you want to tell, basically. So, is that the best way, or would be to keep things to yourself and then just see if something happens? Yeah,
I mean, the keep things to yourself is can be frustrating. And as I said, I've been doing the rounds and I've met a lot of great people and I've got stuff in development. But these ideas I have, I think I just want to tell the story. I think comic books is the way to go. Unfortunately, I can't draw to save my life. So really, I just need to hunt down a handful of really awesome artists, and really that's something that creatively I think I would very much enjoy. And then looking at it as a next step. And who knows? As I said, one of these other sci-fi development projects could land sooner than later. In fact, I'm in discussion on a couple of projects. One is a sci-fi series that has actually already been greenlit, and I know the creator, and he's amazing. It's just a matter of whether this show is really the right fit for me. I'm at the point in my career where after 17 years or 12 years on Stargate, 17 seasons of Stargate and Dark Matter and just leaving Vancouver, I'm not desperate to get on a show. I want it to be the right show. It has to be kind of a right creative fit for me. And if it comes along, great. If not, then that's fine too. I'll express myself creatively elsewhere. Maybe it's not television. I don't know. We'll see.
Great. Well, I think that's we really appreciate your spending all this time with us.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thank you for. I didn't ramble too much.
Yeah, for sure. And let me just say that you guys please just go check his blog out and then keep on watching for new projects, because you can't miss that. And thank you very much for being here and being our first guest. We couldn't be more honored that it's you. We hope to see you again.
Excellent. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. All right.
Good day.
Good day.
Thanks for listening to another Nerks podcast. Rate us, leave us a review on iTunes, and follow us on Twitter @Nerks of the Hub, and let us know what you think.